Let's give Will our eyes and ears. Go ahead, sir.
Imagine you hop off a plane in China, starting your own business in Shanghai, but you know nothing about the culture, you don't speak the language, and all you have with you is your American suit. Now, by a show of hands, how many of you think you'd be successful? That's what I thought. None of you raised your hand, and you're right. So today I'm going to inform you of 3 ways that you can go about being successful when entering the international market for the first time. You may be asking yourself, why should I care what happens to the international market? And to be honest with you, I used to ask myself that same exact question. But then I started to look around and realize that over 95% of the things that I own actually come from some way, shape, or form another country, and they're always being built in other countries and brought over to the U.S. So I thought, why not research this? Something I'm interested in. Hopefully one day I will be an international businessman myself. So the 3 strategies to think about when advancing your business into international market are understanding the language and culture, being patient, and localizing every aspect of your company. First, let's discuss the language and the culture. When going overseas, it's important to truly understand what's going on with your language and culture that you're trying to get started in. By knowing the language and understanding what the people that are buying your product are and what they speak and how they speak and interact with each other, it makes it easier for them to understand what you're trying to do. So if you go over to Mexico and you're trying to speak in English, they obviously can't understand what you're saying. And by going about learning the language, they're going to feel more relatable with your company because they see that you're actually trying to go out and do this. So for example, in 1999, an article in the Wall Street Journal, the author discussed a Got Milk campaign and their attempt to internationalize their campaign. But they failed to research the Spanish language and ended up printing thousands of ads that translated to "Are you lactating?" instead of "Got milk." This extreme example shows just how important it is to double-check the translation before furthering a campaign into a foreign country. Similarly to that, a 2016 article from the American Marketing Association states that understanding the culture and language is more important than understanding the economics of a country. By understanding what the people want and talking to them in their own language, you're able to understand better how to succeed in your own business and how to market your product to what they want, as opposed to seeing the ups and downs of the statistics in the economy. By people seeing that you're going out of your way to see what they want, they see you as doing them a favor as opposed to them doing you a favor. Secondly, when entering into an international market, you must be patient. If you expect automatic results, that is a clear example of failure. If you think that you're going to go in 5 minutes into your business, 5 weeks, 5 months, you're going to fail because you have to wait months and months and months and years and years and years before you can finally make a profit. If you're not patient with it, there's nothing good that's going to come from that. So first, you have to just remember that not everything happens quickly. According to a 2017 journal written in the Journal of Global Marketing, the longer you operate a company overseas with patience, the more likely you are to obtain value, localized knowledge, human capital, and or other resources that can help gain leverage when your other competitors come. So if you're the first person and you're the first company into this new market, people are going to see you as the go-to guy. So when all of your other competitors come in and try and spice it up a little bit and do other things, they're going to look at you because you've been there for the longest amount of time. They're going to come to you with questions about the new products. And so you have to be there and interact with the people for a long time to truly understand what they're going through. And that will be very valuable when your other competitors come in. This same article from 2017 in the Journal of Global Marketing says every country market entry will have long-term path-dependent effects. Knowing that everything will have a long-term effect is very beneficial for you because it will help you set long-term goals. And by setting those long-term goals, you're able to feel in control of the situation even when things aren't going as smoothly as you planned. So when you're starting to drop down and people aren't buying the product as much as you would hope that they would, you can remember that you're looking into the future and that you're going to eventually be successful. Lastly, to be successful in an international market, you must localize every aspect of your company. You may ask, what does localize every aspect of your company mean? According to an article from Entrepreneur in April of 2017, localizing your market is defined as defining the product in the simplest way possible as a way to keep the locals from being confused and by relating it to something personal that they like. By simplifying every aspect of your product, there's a very small chance of product confusion. If your target market is unable to relate to something in their own life, they're not going to want to buy their product. So if you're going to go overseas to China and talk about American football, they're not as exposed to American football as we are. So they're not going to be as likely to go and engage in that conversation with you. That's an extreme example. There's other things such as the Got Milk campaign again. If you don't understand what's going on, they're not going to want to do it. And you need to relate something that they are personally into to do that. A great example comes from the Forbes magazine in an article of 2013. KFC initiated a campaign in China, and they started adding rice bowls to their menu due to the increased popularity of rice in China. And so that way they're relating more with the people of China and their love for rice. And right now they're the #1 fried chicken restaurant in China. So they're really growing due to their ability to relate with their people. In conclusion, there are 3 main strategies to be successful in the international market. Understand the language and culture, being patient, and localizing every aspect of your company. Hopefully now, when you jump off the plane in China starting your own business, you'll be able to do so successfully. Thank you.
Let's give Cara our eyes and ears. Go ahead, Cara.
All right, by a show of hands, how many of you guys have ever been climbing before? Yes. All right, how many of you guys have ever watched a climbing competition? Nice. All right, so today I'm going to be informing you of the 3 disciplines that will be in the upcoming 2020 Tokyo Olympics, which is a huge thing because this is the first time in history that climbing is ever going to be included. So this is something I think that will relate to you a little bit because climbing industry has been growing a lot. According to IFSC, the International Federation of Sport Climbing, in 2017, gyms in Japan went from 96 to 435 in a span of 7 years. That's a lot. So with that, combined with the fact that it's now going to be in the upcoming 2020 Olympics, something that's probably going to show up in your life at some point soon. So I'm going to be going over the 3 disciplines: bouldering, lead, and speed. So first, I'm going to talk about bouldering because bouldering is the one that people tend to get into first. Bouldering is where people climb up 12-foot walls, don't use any equipment except for their shoes, chalk, and the pads underneath them. And it's all about power, technique, strength, and just pure, strong moves, maximum 10 moves in each boulder problem. And the problem with this is that even though, according to the Wilderness and Environmental Medicine Journal in 2013, a German study reported that they did have the lowest rate of injury and the lowest severity of injury, but they were mostly in the lower limbs because people weren't properly landing on the mats. So the comp style that you'll see in the 2020 Olympics is that you will have climbers come out, and when the timer starts, they get to turn around, see their problem, and then they have a set amount of time to do that problem. This really puts the emphasis on the mental and physical aspect of it because there's a reason that these climbs are called problems. It's a thing you need to figure out. According to a Japanese website, which is tokyo2020.jp, bouldering is considered the chess of climbing, as bouldering is the most difficult, intensive, and unstable of the 3 disciplines. So now that we've talked about bouldering, the one that people tend to start in, let's talk about lead climbing, the one that kind of gets led into by bouldering. Lead climbing is a much longer route. These are called routes rather than problems, and climbers will maneuver up 40-foot walls, and as they do, they clip into their safety points. So the excitement in this discipline is that even though there is a longer route, it's sustained technique, endurance, and then there are the big falls that people take because they will climb above that bolt and then take a bigger fall down below that last bolt that they clipped into. So with this in mind, there is a little bit of a safety issue. They can mostly be avoided, though, if people actually do their safety procedures properly. According to the same journal that I just mentioned of the German 2013 study, this does have the highest rate of injury and the highest severity of injury, but most of these can be avoided, and at the higher level of competing, they do. The way that this competition works is that people come out, they can see their climb, they have a lot longer to climb it. Bouldering's like 4 minutes, and lead is about 20 minutes. and they just slowly make their way up their wall, and then whoever gets the highest is the one who wins. So now that we've talked about the two common disciplines, I'm going to tell you about the one that's a little bit less common, and that is speed climbing. In speed climbing, there's a 50-foot wall that climbers are set in front of side by side. They both have identical problems in front of them, and when the buzzer goes, they both take off, running to the top, and they hit a pad at the top, stopping the timer. So, climbers can top this out in under 6 seconds. A 50-foot wall in under 6 seconds. That's crazy. So, this is something that has a little bit of a debate in the climbing world being included in the Olympics because it lacks a little bit of the climbing culture of mental and physical ability needing to be there because there's not really a mental requirement out of running your way up a wall. So, in the 2016 article on climbing.com, Myers, the IFSC sport director, said that it's true the principles of speed performance are different from other two disciplines. However, the logic of our decision was pretty simple. All of our athletes will be able to participate. So he has some good points. Another point that somebody made in the same article is Alex Puccio. She is one of our top boulders here in the U.S., and she competes on a world level, and she said, yes, I'm a little bummed about it, but ultimately, in speed climbing, competitors could actually set world records. So, now that I've told you all that, basically the three sports that you're going to see are going to be bouldering, which is a test of technique, power, and skill, and lead, which is a test of strategy to efficiently make their way up the wall, and endurance, and just pure guts, and speed, a test of lightning-fast ascension of a wall. So, by show of hands, how many of you might watch in on the 2020 Olympics? Well, hopefully now you know a little bit more so you feel like you can actually understand what these athletes have been training for and what they're actually working on when we see this.